Well, welcome to the planning board meeting for the town of Halifax for January 4th, 2024. I need to announce that the planning board meeting is being recorded by Area 58 and can be viewed on YouTube and I believe Community Access Television on Comcast. We are located in the Selectmen's Meeting Room on the second floor at the Halifax Town Hall, 499 Plymouth Street. It's actually a little after 7 o'clock, and we are now going to begin. I think the first thing we should probably do is, we only have a couple of items on the agenda, but we might as well get a motion on the floor to approve tonight's agenda, and then we can move from there. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. I'd like to wait a minute to make sure we have volume.
He's working on the line. It's just the actual TV itself needs to be turned up, so he's going to try and do it remotely. So they
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, yeah, but we won't be able to interact with them if we
You can
can't.
hear them,
Want to
it's
do
just very
meeting
faint.
minutes first? Meeting minutes first?
Yeah, we're going to
There's no
take,
volume on the side of the...
that's actually a
Like
good
post some
idea.
things and get them out of the way.
Yeah.
Everything remotely, so I'm not sure.
I hate to delay it for everybody, but we want to make sure we can hear you. So we're working on that. So we're going to go ahead and take a couple of things out of order if there's no objection. Not for me. We can do the bills and the meeting minutes. We'll start with the meeting minutes. And the meeting minutes for...
October 19th. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written for October 19th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's the only one I...
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous?
I don't have copies of the other two.
You don't have copies of it, too? I don't have physical copies of it.
Meeting minutes.
No, these are the ones to sign. Right, Danielle? The 19th ones to sign?
So do you want to hold off on those?
I do.
What about December 7th? That also, you don't
I don't
have?
have a copy of them. I'd rather like...
Okay, that's fine. We will carry over November 16th and December 7th. We can do the bills, though, right?
They're on the order?
One,
Oh, we don't have that copy.
As soon as I find it. Oh, I don't have it in here. Oh, you got it.
I'll just read it.
Yeah, please.
Make a motion to pay planning board account for PGV Engineering for 314 Plymouth Street plan review services in the amount of $360. Motion to pay.
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we've handled all the business. Any progress?
nope.
There has to be a way.
Fine.
Is there a remote control for the?
He doesn't know where it is.
He doesn't know where it is. Isn't that helpful?
Yeah, right? Is it, it's not under?
Well, it's the way they make things now. You have to have the remote, right?
Take yours. Most of them don't have physical
What was
controls.
wrong with that TV with the dial?
A lot. There was a lot wrong with those. Where is the computer that is connected to for the Zoom? Like downstairs or like?
This is just the office.
And it's not in that little back room?
Can you bring up that bar again? Is there anything there?
Oh. Is it a touch screen?
No,
No, it's all the way up.
no.
Says iPhone.
No, that's
It's your
Zoom.
speakerphone.
Yeah, that's just.
We need
this
a
is the Zoom
TV.
set.
Is that Caesar doing that stuff?
Yes.
Obviously.
So whatever computer that's linked to, that they're casting that through.
Yeah.
The volume on the computer is what is going to project through the Zoom.
Okay, kind of like if you're on a booth.
Yep, exactly. There's got to be a joke here about how many elected officials does it take to turn up the volume?
There's nothing on this.
There's a headphone thing. You probably want to take that one.
I just heard something.
Yeah, is that headphones?
Somebody speak.
Somebody say something.
Can
Hello?
somebody speak? Oh, that's better.
A little bit better.
Not very good.
I hope this is not on live TV to watching us.
Yeah. We want editing. Well, I don't know how we're gonna be able to go here, but,
But we could, funny, it says everyone call in onto the, put the speakerphone on the cell phone.
Oh, you mean in,
Like a
along with
conference
this?
Right, they'll talk through this.
yeah.
Is Caesar on the phone?
They can mute their microphone and have it through speaker.
Yeah, when we could even,
Add all 5 of them. I don't know how many calls you can add on one.
we could put it on the mic.
Party line, you mean, like an add the call, add the
Yeah.
call? I don't know.
We'll see.
So if you make a call to one person, then you add
Just
the
keep
call
adding,
and add
just
and
keep
see,
adding,
and
yeah.
see where it goes.
Yeah, you see that.
Try that.
I just need the code to get into
Or
it.
just, they could just call my cell phone.
Can you
tell them like that?
Yeah, can you tell?
Rob. Rob Press. Call me. And then,
Have Caesar send. Can you
Steve, you call me afterwards, I'll add the 2 of you and then we'll just keep
add
adding.
a link to add to that Zoom?
Robbie, you should be able to call one and then add and then
I
add.
just don't have any of the numbers.
One step
Oh,
further.
oh,
Hold on, time out. One other thing we can do is if Caesar sends me the link to get in, I'll join and add my phone on speaker. And then I should
We
get
have a
it.
better plan.
Well, I would say it's better.
It's
Let's see if
a
it works first.
Technology.
Yeah.
How they say it's better, right?
Quote unquote progress.
World of IT. Beautiful.
Those bolt action rifles never jammed.
Yeah, isn't that, yeah, or a revolver, right?
Exactly.
You gotta be spending this much money on a project, you gotta have your face in front of the public and stand up there and speak, period.
I believe they call that a mic drop. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna call this.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Can he send that next?
At least that's loud enough.
Yeah. Can he send the meeting
You
ID
have
separate?
not entered any numbers. Please read.
She sounds like my wife. She's already nagging me. Oh, God.
oh. You are on record.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Can you read me the meeting ID, please? 81.
Type it automatically.
I'm sorry?
The link, the number I sent you on the text,
Yeah.
it's not typing it automatically.
No, 81.
This meeting ID.
8166.
Hold on, please. This will work.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
8166
0384
0384
260.
260. Pound.
Yep.
You are in the meeting now. There are 7 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
Can one of you guys say something?
I can't hear you.
It's star 6.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Can you
You are
guys?
unmuted.
Can one of you guys say something?
Hello?
Yep, there you go.
Yep, we're here.
Oh, that's better.
I'm now gonna mute myself. Hold all
You
jokes.
are muted.
Okay.
Or can they hear?
Okay.
You can hear us through this?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Can you hear us?
We can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
It's a little
All
bad,
right.
though. Can you hear that?
Thankfully, we can now begin. Of course, now I'm hearing myself talk, so that's interesting. The first item on the agenda tonight is the continuation of the hearing for, it's not 499 Plymouth Street, 314 Plymouth Street, petition 991. It's been a while since we've last discussed this particular project. Perhaps we should try to get a little recap on where we're at. I know that there were some revisions to the plan that Mr. Brennan, Pat, has reviewed. Can you maybe take a minute, Pat, and tell us what has changed and how that affects the plan?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pat Brennan, peer reviewer for the planning board. So they submitted a revised plan dated November 30th. I reviewed that and sent a letter to the board dated December 4th, and I outlined what the changes were to the plan. The first change was that they widened the access drive off Plymouth Street from 24 feet to 32 feet. As part of that, they added a raised concrete triangular island within that Plymouth Street access to better channelize traffic to be right in and right out only. This was in response to a suggestion by the highway surveyor in his November 15th memo to the board. They did some reconfiguration in the rear of the site to provide easier access for larger vehicles. This was a result of I believe the auto parts store needing some larger vehicles to get in there for deliveries. And what they, there's some reconfiguration of the, like I said, the rear of the site, and they also added one additional parking space. So there are 61 parking spaces on the site now, up from 60 previously. And then the final thing that they did was they raised the bottom of the proposed infiltration basin at the back of the site by a foot to provide the required separation from groundwater per the Mass DEP stormwater standards. I did review, like I said, the plans, obviously outlined those changes to the board. I didn't have any additional comments based on those. The stormwater system complies with the state regulations. As I said, the revisions to the access drive off Plymouth Street were in response to a suggestion by the highway surveyor, so hopefully he's happy with that. And those were pretty much the changes. I don't know if any of the applicant's team wants to add anything, but that's what I have for now, and I can answer any questions that you have.
Do the applicants have anything?
So, in broad brush, Mr. Chairman, through the board, as Mr. Brennan just stated, we've done everything asked of us with respect to the revisions of the plan. And I don't think, unless Steve or Aubrey wants to add anything, or Mr. McNaughton wants to add anything about the traffic, I think we've done everything asked of us. And that's substantiated by Mr. Brennan.
All right, thank you. I'd like to take a moment and ask Pat some specific directed questions, if I may, Pat. You did comment on the recent changes, thank you. And I think you mentioned that the drainage that's provided or will be provided for the uses proposed are appropriate for the purpose and meet all the required standards. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. They meet the Mass DEP stormwater standards, which is what the requirements call for.
I didn't understand.
Could you repeat that for us, Pat? Because we had a little voice challenge here.
Yes, that is correct. They meet all of the Mass DEP stormwater standards, which is what the requirements call for.
Also, in your professional opinion, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. Will this plan work for its intended purposes? Do you have every reason to believe it would?
Yes, I do.
Much has been made of the existing drainage problems there, and I just want to have you address a little bit. Is this going to add any problems to the existing drainage problems? When I say problems, I'm talking specifically for the Alger property.
Correct. No, the state standards require that you cannot increase runoff from, you have to mitigate runoff on your particular site.
Right.
So their drainage design, whatever flows off that site today, they cannot increase that. And their drainage calculations show that that's what they're doing. I had submitted another letter to the town back in October 27th was the date of that, where I looked at, and this was in response to some questions raised at the last public hearing that we had on this. And what I looked at, there was a question that the Algers had, they made the comment that the drain pipe that runs from Route 106 through the O'Reilly Auto Park store, it just outlets there, and it kind of makes it, the runoff from that pipe makes its way, across the wetlands there and toward the Alger property. In the design for the property next door, which is a self-storage facility, they made arrangements for that. They proposed a swale that would carry that drainage from that outfall pipe and get it into the existing drainage ditch. So it wouldn't be going overland as it does today toward the Alger property. It would get into the drainage ditch, which, as part of that approval, there were agreements between the Algers, the self-storage people, and I believe the golf course people, where that drainage ditch would be maintained, cleaned on a regular basis, and maintained the flow. So that, the project next door is the project that will take care of the, do more to help the Algers issue than this one will. This one really doesn't touch that. It does discharge into that system, but again, that system, and basically that's why I said in one of my previous letters that system needs to be up and running prior to this system, this property getting into, going into service.
Okay, thank you. Another question came up regarding Shelby Plaza and their overflow problems. I don't know how much this applies or not, but the question was brought up, and I want to ask, do you have any reason to believe that any impact from Shelby Plaza, whether it's allowed or not allowed at Shelby Plaza, would have any impact on this site?
No, and I looked at, and I'm not sure exactly where the drainage from Shelby Plaza goes. However, there is an existing head wall out behind this 314 Plymouth Street property that discharges into the existing drainage ditch. And I'm just looking at this from record plans from various projects. So my best guess is that that's probably some type of an overflow from Shelby Plaza. That is behind this property. It would not be impacted by this project whatsoever. Again, it would benefit from the proposed self-storage property next door, which will improve that ditch network. And like I said, they have agreements to maintain that ditch network so that it will continue to work and get the water away from the Algers.
In terms of the site itself, we have not seen any septic design plans. I assume that you've looked at it thinking about there is adequate room and a spot reserved for a septic system once it in fact is approved by the Board of Health. They have allowed for it?
Conceptually, a couple of locations. The auto parts store is a fairly small septic system. There's not a lot of flow from that type of a use. Obviously, the coffee shop has a larger flow, and there's a large area right behind the coffee shop. It's actually a proposed grass area where they're proposing to put the leaching field for that septic system. Obviously they have to go to the Board of Health for approval of that, but it does appear that they have sufficient space available to put that in.
Just an overall question. Do you have any unusual reservations concerning the plan or the site?
No, again, provided that the project next door gets built either concurrently or prior to, then everything from this site will work accordingly. But as I mentioned before, the site next door is critical for the drainage improvements they need to make, which, those are the improvements that are going to help the neighbors. And, it's this project is kind of contingent on that as well.
Thank you, Pat. Does anyone else have anything to add of our Zoomers? Or all right then. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions that we can get answered?
Yeah.
Just identify yourself for the...
Yeah, Tom Alger, 340 Plymouth Street. So right now we're talking with the Conservation Commission about the pipe that goes from 106 into Mr. Peck's field. And my engineer and Mr. Peck's engineer, we can't figure out how much water will be flowing from that pipe.
Or it is flowing. Is flowing. Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's already active.
So we don't know how much water is flowing out of that pipe in order to calculate whether or not the improvements that Mr. Peck is making to our property and to his property regarding that ditch and the flow of water will be sufficient. So that's the problem that we have right now. I have suggested to Conservation that the town reroute that drainage to Stop and Shop's retention, and that way there it would take care of all the water that the town is putting onto Mr. Peck's property and then flowing onto 340 Plymouth Street.
Yeah, have you contacted Highway? Have you talked?
Yes.
Have you talked to Steve?
I have an email going back and forth between Conservation, Steve, and myself, and I'm planning on having that on the agenda for Tuesday's meeting.
Just to be clear, this project is not going to impact that. Am I correct in that statement, Pat? Anyone?
Excellent. That's correct.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with what Mr. Peck is doing.
Okay, that's where I was getting at. You're okay with the project?
Right, but the problem, the big problem that we have is really what the town is doing to Mr. Peck's property, and then all that water is draining onto 340 Plymouth Street. That's really the bulk of the issue.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I spoke to Steve Hayward about it, the highway surveyor, and he agreed that that's really where the problem's coming from. I think everyone's going to have to kind of join together and try to come up with a solution there.
Yeah, I agree with everything he said. Like it's contributed, that like the study that you had done is like, it's been very detrimental to the property that's ultimately going to be the storage. It's where the bulk of the wetness has come from.
Right, it's ruined probably about a quarter of an acre of your property.
Yeah.
We used to farm that property,
No, I remember.
so it was never like it is now.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Steve will try to help as much as he can. The trouble is, over the years, so many things were just done without any plans, without any review, without anything. And trying to find some of the pipe is now becoming an issue, where they actually go. There's a few people around that might have some recollection, but that's getting to be harder and harder to find. Anybody else?
My questions are for...
Could you mind going to the mic and identifying yourself, please?
Patricia Sullivan, Biden Lane, B15 Biden Lane. My questions and concerns are more for the board than for the developer. I was wondering if the board ever negotiated with the developer for a different business plan other than more coffee in auto parts?
Did anyone on the board ever try to negotiate that?
This is the proposal in front of us. I mean, not everyone can speak for themselves. My personal opinion is the charge of the planning board is to review the plan presented to it. You can make suggestions, you can try to get in things that might look more attractive or that type of thing. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, and from my point of view, it's whether the site works for what they're proposing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me.
But everyone else can offer their own opinions here. I'm not trying to speak for the entire board.
We really can't get involved in the real estate transactions between the owners' properties.
Okay. All right. My other concern is the traffic. I know that they just mentioned that they were going to put in a triangular island to help with the flow of traffic. Being a walker, it's difficult sometimes, it being the only sidewalk through town. I find sometimes that I have to stop short to let traffic come out at the bank, or let traffic come out of O'Reilly's or into O'Reilly's or the bank. But neither one of those businesses are going to generate the volume of traffic that a drive-through at Starbucks is going to. And my concern is the traffic jams are inevitable, and will somebody exiting or entering that drive-through block the sidewalk? And that's a concern of mine, is for safety reasons. That's my biggest concern is the traffic. I live on Lyden Lane. I'm going to be dealing with traffic from the new over 55 development, and now I'm going to be dealing with traffic from this project. I mean, it's very difficult for me to get across 58. I have to run for my life sometimes because people would rather not stop for you. And finally, if the project moves forward, and this is just my opinion and how I feel about the project, is that our little stretch of 106 is turning into Route 44 in Rainham, Route 53 in Hanover, and that makes me very sad. And I just want you to know that. So, thank you.
We appreciate your feelings. A lot of us are longtime residents and have gotten accustomed to seeing things the way they've been for the last, at least I've been here almost 50 years myself. And it's hard to see some of these changes. But we did not as a town go ahead and change any zoning over these last years. The zoning that we currently have is almost identical to what was originally passed when zoning was incorporated in the town of Halifax. That's where those changes have to be made in the zoning map. And at this time, what we have is what we have. And something's going to go on this property. As far as traffic goes, the good news is that storage and the auto parts store won't generate much traffic. Will there be some traffic from Starbucks? I assume there will be. The lights are probably going to have to be tweaked a little out there. I would defer to Pat on that a little bit. Would that be a reasonable statement, Pat, that the traffic signals might have to be tweaked?
Yeah, Mr. McNaughton is actually shaking it. He's a traffic engineer for the applicant. But yeah, and you know, the two things about this project, the site driveway that I had mentioned earlier, they're going to widen. When you're leaving the site, you can only take a right out of that driveway. You cannot go left. If you need to go left, you're going to have to loop around the site, loop around, the interior portion of the site, go out the new driveway for the self-storage facility, which is going to line up directly across from the Stop and Shop entrance at that set of lights. So, yeah, they'll obviously the coffee shop, the Starbucks or whatever it is, will generate more traffic than the auto parts store, and certainly more than the self-storage. But they've made provisions for that to make it safe. There's also a provision for a left turn lane into that set of lights at the where the proposed self-storage facility would be, so that if you're heading westbound on Plymouth Street, you would have to go to that set of lights in order to get into this site. You're not allowed to take a left into the site driveway from that direction either. It's right in, right out only.
We also, there's going to be some changes to the traffic equipment there. Has that been reviewed? Has that been calculated? Oh.
Yes, that was all specifically made.
Do we have any kind of a plan in motion or proposed?
That design is going to follow this approval and you work through the details of the design. So we know conceptually what it's going to be to add that fourth leg opposite the Stop and Shop driveway, but we haven't designed the details of the equipment to the point that it's ready to go for a construction plan.
I think the operative...
I think it's a fairly straightforward process.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think the operative part of the question is the one I omitted. The developer is going to bear all the costs of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for the record, okay.
Pat, do we have enough room on the street to add another left turn only?
Yes, they actually have a sketch in, I believe there's a sketch in their plan set that shows that left turn lane. Right now, I believe it's striped. There is room there for a left turn lane, but it's a striped median.
I mean on our street. I mean right on 106.
Yeah, there's a short section of a striped, call it median or island area where you're not driving in the middle of the road. We would be converting that to a left turn lane and extending it back a little bit towards the Walmart driveway, and that's the sketch that should be in your plan.
Right, it's like one car length, and then that's the same exact one car length that's at the Walmart and 106. It's the same identical little strip. It's not really wide enough there, is it, to put a third full lane without taking away from the Walmart left turn only?
We will take away from the Walmart left turn lane a few feet. We're going to lengthen it so we'll have about 85 feet, which will get you 3 to 4 cars queued up going into this driveway, which is more than sufficient. That leaves about 280 feet for the Walmart entrance, the left turn. And looking at the Walmart queues that exist there, they're typically 100 feet or less, so we still have plenty of excess storage for the Walmart driveway.
Have you seen that that's usually a full lane?
We have not in the observations that we've done.
Well, it is.
Personally, myself, I've never seen a full lane in that left turn lane. That is about the longest left turn lane I've ever seen.
I would highly disagree with that.
Well, that's why we have 5 people on the board. So we have 5 opinions.
Erica Rossini, 6 Deron Road. Is the look of the Starbucks up to negotiation to make it more like countryish to what other places look like on our main road?
I don't know.
I just feel like O'Reilly stands out like a sore thumb. It's the ugliest building ever, and the proposed Starbucks is no better. I know that I think Bert said when Walmart was going in, we made sure there was dormers and it looked more country-like, and Stop and Shop is not a neon color or anything like that. I just feel like the Starbucks is hideous.
I don't know how that fits into their plan. I mean, all the planning board can do is make suggestions and see what they may do or may not do. I think throw it back at them. I don't know that they'd be able to do that or not, but...
So when my neighborhood was being built, there was a clause in there that said you're not supposed to build a ranch-style house. You couldn't have, a neon color door, let's just say. When Highland Woods was built, they made sure that all the mailboxes were in sets of 4 in certain locations. There's no sort of bylaws on how the commercial buildings are, even his property that he's building he's trying to make it more look country-ish, let's just say, right? Than some of the other storage places that I have seen.
Same thing with the landscaping building that we just
Yeah.
approved.
Right, we just asked them to do this, that, and the other thing.
I understand what you're saying, and we can ask and we can see what they'd be willing to do, or if they have any other
But are there
designs.
any bylaws on the record?
No, and what you're referring to weren't bylaws.
Or whatever.
They're restrictive covenants that the developer put in place to keep this subdivision as uniform as possible, but not in the bylaws.
Those were more requests from the public to those developers or to those business owners, and for those in those business owners' best interest, they conformed their original plans to the request of the residents in order to invoke a.
Everything all right, officer?
Come on. I knew Caesar was good. I think he was accurate.
Oh,
For the love of God, because
I know, you were really working tonight.
Well, let's make sure that it works.
They're frozen, so we can't even see them.
Yeah, give that to the guy with the. There you go.
oh yeah, great, thanks.
We were
So I
doing
think
good.
So Caesar has to press that. I can't do that. That's Caesar's got to do that,
Are you calling Dustin Caesar?
and I don't want to touch
I
anything.
missed the rotary dial telephone.
Yeah, that's
You
not
missed
me.
one.
That's
The
Caesar.
rotary dial telephone.
When I first,
Hold on.
Yeah, when life was lived
So
off the phone.
have Caesar. I think Caesar's listening, right? So
Have them say
have
something.
Caesar. Well, he muted the Zoom so that it wasn't a reverb. So Caesar, unmute the Zoom. Come on.
Oh, he's doing it.
well, this has only been a little frustrating.
Can you guys say something?
Oh, you got volume, excellent.
Not to be inappropriate, but the clothing in a certain part of my pants is worn down now. All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, it's Robert Kraus. We provided you detailed all pictures of what the building would look like. And we spent a considerable amount of time making sure that it was aesthetically appropriate as best we could. So those have been submitted. That was one of the requests, and we provided them for us.
Do we have any other questions? Gentlemen, ladies?
I was just a little concerned on the septic, even though it has nothing to do with it. Just, they only have two test pits for soil logs for the septic system. And one of them is not even anywhere near where the leaching area is for the auto parts store. And the other one is just in the edge of the leaching area for the Starbucks. And normally you have like at least 2 perks for each system. I just wonder if they're going to re-perk when they have to get the septic approved and designed, if they're going to do more perk tests exactly where the leaching areas are.
Were you able to hear the question, gentlemen?
Yes, and actually, when we do go before the Board of Health for the septic design, if that's a requirement, we will absolutely fulfill it. We just haven't done it yet because we wanted to make sure that there weren't any additional changes. Because originally, we had the septic system in a different location, which is why those particular perk tests don't match the location it is now. But yes, it is the intention of having it done yet.
You can make it a condition of any permit that you wish. Of course, it has to have Title V.
It's a condition.
Of course.
That would definitely be a condition.
Right.
Yes, of course.
On every septic system, you do 2 holes, right?
Yeah, normally.
In Halifax, you did 3 holes.
Yeah. You have to have reserve areas too.
But they're going to have to do whatever they have to do to get a septic
That is
system approved.
exactly right.
I'd just be surprised if the septic's got approved with the perk test they have. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
We're not asking for any waivers. We will comply completely.
can I ask you this then, Rick? And also Patrick, I would like to hear anybody, would you think that maybe they wouldn't have done the drainage enough on all of this due to the fact that they haven't done enough perks to see what the water table is? You know what I'm saying? Like if they found that they did other perks for those septic systems and found a higher water table than what was actually predicted because they didn't do those holes. Like, you can do a perk, right? And you can dig a hole, and then like 5 feet away, you could hit water table, correct? That was higher. Even if it,
5 feet away?
yeah,
It's not usually,
well, whatever the required amount of feet away is what I mean.
You could have trapped water.
yeah, I mean, there's all different. They're mostly going by models nowadays. Or if you just find water, I don't know, one or the other. So it's, yeah, I mean, the table, it can vary, you know, from distances. I mean, 5 feet away, I don't think would be much of a difference. But, you know, I'm sure the Board of Health is going to want to see, I would imagine, to see a perk holes in the leaching areas and make sure, because it's not like those 2 perk tests are the same either. You know, it's not consistent. So,
Do you think that it could? Do you think that it could actually get into the drainage, though?
No.
Pat, do you think that if we didn't have enough holes dug that we could actually maybe have other drainage issues that we would have to come back and look at?
Well, they have 2 test holes within the footprint of the drainage basin. That's how we know that they have the adequate separation from groundwater there. They do have a number of other test holes on site. Like Rick said, not all of them are within the proposed leaching fields. I did review a storage facility project on this site a year or 2 ago for the board, and there were holes done for that as well, which aren't shown on these plans. So there's been test holes more than the amount of test holes shown in the plans done on this particular property. And what Title V requires for new construction is 4 test holes for each septic system. They need 2 in the primary area, 2 in the reserve area. So they're going to need to do that when they go to the Board of Health.
And obviously, any issuance of a building permit would be predicated on an approved septic system by the Board of Health.
But do you not think that the septic systems could need to be larger or more raised that would actually get in the way of what the stormwater management is doing now? Isn't it possible?
The systems could be larger depending on what they get for perk rates. If they differ from what they've got before, I believe what they've sized on is their most restrictive perk rate or the largest perk rate that they've witnessed out there so far. And that's what you have to design on anyway. So, you know, the requirement is that they stay, the septic leaching fields have to be a minimum of 25 feet from the detention basin, and with the parking that they have and everything between where the proposed septic system for the car parks is supposed to go and the detention basin, that they have that separation just in pavement almost. So, you know, if it goes in that grassed area where they're showing it, there shouldn't be an issue. You know, they may have to, depending on what the groundwater is in those test holes. And again, I didn't review it because it's a review. But, you know, if they have to raise the septic system more, that they have to raise the septic system more. But there's ways to do that. There's also alternative systems that they can put in where you don't need the full 4 or 5 feet of separation of groundwater either. There's alternative systems that are available to them for that type of situation also.
But in short, it is possible that it could change the stormwater management, correct?
I wouldn't think so. It should be plenty far away from that.
It's possible to change?
And if it did, they'd have to come back to you guys anyway.
Thank you.
For the drive-through, how many cars does it hold?
I don't recall offhand. It was quite a few.
I counted 16.
I wish it was larger.
17.
My
I counted
eyes.
17.
16.
In the actual drive-through lane itself, not including, you know, any place else on the property, just the drive-through lane that goes around the back.
That starts
So
as
they're proposing a building that has a drive-through lane that holds 16, and then they're gonna have a left lane turn only that's gonna hold 3 cars. Do we think that that's enough?
well, that's just at one entrance.
Right.
The 16 is in the actual drive-through lane, and there's area within the parking lot, and then there's area within the entrance drive, so it could be, 25 or 30 cars before you ever get near the street, which is well in excess of anything we've observed and anything that any other Starbucks and the area could accommodate. This is a very generous storage area for drive-throughs.
So are we saying that people coming to Starbucks are only going to be traveling east
No, you
to
can
turn in
you can get in west as well
through that set of lights?
at the controlled entrance.
It's
Or
only
you
gonna
can, or
have-
if you're
If
going,
it's a red light, there's only three cars can fit at that before it blocks the lane to go through.
Well, at the light,
Right.
yeah, that's what we going westbound.
going westbound,
Right, and
So if
that's,
you're coming from Walmart's set of lights,
right.
and you want to take a left-hand turn into Starbucks, you're going to have to go to the light at Stop and Shop, wait. If it's red, you're going to wait in that turn area that's going to hold 3 vehicles. And then the other lane is going to be going straight through, and you're going to go to Dunkin' Donuts, let's just say, right? And they're going to have a drive-through that's going to hold that many cars, so are we saying that
But you can take a right, you can be able to take a right into it if you're going eastbound.
I guess you don't know. So if
She's-
there's 16 cars trying to get in there,
Are they talking about?
coming in by taking a left-hand turn off of 106,
Just the
what does that do to the
61
traffic
parking spaces.
right.
on
Not
106?
including them?
I don't know.
Well, it is a major concern for
I'm just not
sure.
sure that the left-hand turn into this development for 3 cars is adequate.
So there's storage for 3 cars, which would happen as that main street is red because the Stop and Shop driveway or this proposed driveway have the green indication. That's when those cars would potentially queue up. They would get the green, and the through movement would have the green. Those 3 cars would be able to flush out and get into the entrance, very efficiently. It's an intersection that's not going to operate with excessive delays for that left turn. So the 3 is, what we've calculated. I think we have more like 1.5 to 2 on. It's what you'd expect to see typically. We built in a little bit of cushion for that. And as we implement these, we put in the new signal equipment and then we're monitoring the timing to make sure that it works and that those cars are not queuing out and that the rest of the system is still working so that we're not backing up traffic on 106 for other movements. So we're confident through the analysis that the left turn lane and the storage that's provided is more than sufficient to serve the site.
Gary, are the other lights in our town going to be synced up with the new?
Yes, we have, part of the work that we'll be doing is looking at the timing of all of those so that they are better coordinated. Some of them, they're the nature of the type of uses that they're serving. It's not as organized as commuter traffic where you have, folks coming in and out of retail centers. It's a little more haphazard. So that's really the inherent problem in trying to synchronize those lights really efficiently. What you might see in a normal, downtown area in a city like Brockton or Boston or something like that. But we'll certainly be looking at that as part of the implementation of the signal improvements.
Well, don't you think that it's a major part of a special permit being given for a drive-through to make sure that the traffic in our town will support this? Because I think it's something that we need to see as part of this. Is let's see what the street where our residents and taxpayers are running around the streets in their cars if they're going to be blocked up. Because I see it.
We provided a full traffic impact study. We talked about it in previous meetings. We have concept plans that show that left turn lane. So I think we've documented it very well. That from a traffic perspective, this site and the proposed access, particularly with the signalized access, and then the right turn in home-only driveway is not going to have an impact on the overall transportation in the area. It will continue to work well. So we've gone through that. I hadn't anticipated doing a full presentation on the traffic study since we have covered that previously and it's been peer reviewed. Yes, it has.
Sandy 61 Road. I think what she means is, like, from my personal experience, just last weekend, coming off of 58 to make a right turn to go westbound, I couldn't even get onto 58 with the Walmart traffic, the subway traffic, set of lights, and now you're going to have cars, even if it's only 3 cars, supposedly backed up for Starbucks to make the left turn at the Stop and Shop lights. I know things look good on paper, but sometimes in real life, they don't jive. And this, if you spent some time and actually just looked at the situation, it might flow on paper and you time things and this and that. But in the real world, the traffic it's horrible now. It's wintertime. Add the summertime, the Friday night traffic, the Saturday morning traffic, and then more businesses that aren't conducive to flow. You might as well be walking wherever you want to go, or riding a bike, and then you probably get hit by a car, so it doesn't matter.
I almost get hit every day I go walking.
Unless somebody else has something to offer, I wanted to talk about easement. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna beat this dead horse again. I'm Fred Corrigan from Rosewood Drive, and I've heard a lot of talk here about traffic lights and traffic, but I have not once heard from the committee or from these people's proposal about synchronized traffic lights.
That's what I was just trying to ask about.
Did they come at, because we have touched on when we did the storage facility, they were gonna take care of that, make it a four-way light at Stop and Shop, but nobody said, make sure that that light is synchronizable, okay? Because if we had those 3 traffic lights synchronized, you should be able to, in heading west, you should be able to make 58, Walmart, and Stop and Shop without stopping in between. If all of these lights were properly synchronized, that whole line of traffic would move, and once they're beyond Stop and Shop, they're free to go. And then your side traffic comes out, and then you recycle this again, because you've got synchronized lights. And it's not only this project, it's this piece of property, there's other pieces of property still available in that traffic zone, and you've got the condos looking at us, coming up 58 to aggravate that traffic light. So all of these need to be synchronized. But as far as I know, we haven't done anything in this town, even though the Plymouth County Transportation 4 years ago recommended that those antique lights be changed, and we have done nothing with it, okay? The second problem is we've still got a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit in that business district. So now you got people driving 35 or beyond, okay? And we're not writing tickets in that district, trust me, okay? If you look at your police report every week, you should see 100 tickets going out of that board. We have got to do this. If little towns south of us can keep their traffic down to 30, why can't we get that business district down to 25 where it belongs and get that extended out and synchronize these lights, and then that traffic will flow. And it won't be, you stop here, you stop here, you stop here. That is ridiculous, okay? So unless we're gonna get synchronized lights out of these developers, the developers for the condos, wherever else we gotta get our money, they have got to contribute to the problem that they're creating. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's what we were addressing, the synchronizing of lights. Am I correct or incorrect?
Right, we will be looking at the entire corridor as we put this new connection in, the new driveway. And then you're looking at the operations of that signal as well as the other signals along the corridor. They're closely spaced enough, it's impossible not to look at all of them. As I try to explain, it's not a corridor where, you have just one through road. You have both, 106 and 58, so you've got 2 main roadways that you have to balance all that traffic. So it's not like a roadway where you have just 106 going through and a bunch of driveways. Where that I can very easily synchronize so that you don't stop more than once. When I've got other roadways coming through, I've got to try to balance that. And you're looking at the overall system to minimize stops. It doesn't mean that, every time you drive through here and you hit that first light, that you're never going to hit a red light. It's never that clean. I've been doing this a long time, so, and I know this area well. I live close by, so I'm familiar with it firsthand as well.
I wanted to touch a minute on easements, because it seems to me that we're going to have a bunch of easements. I know that Rob submitted one to Nomi that she liked the language of, but we have other easements. Anything that happens on this property, I think, and everyone else chime in with anything you've got, be subject to at least the necessary easements, the language of which need to be approved by our council, and recorded at the Registry of Deeds with proof of recordings to be provided to the planning board, in force prior to the issuance of any building permit.
Makes sense, Mr. Chairman.
I'm also including in that, just to be clearer, I would be looking for the controlled access entry and exit easements, the parking and roadway easements, where we've got additional parking spots, and the roadway that goes across the property. Obviously, the drainage retention, I think that's the one that Rob may have sent to Nomi, our attorney. Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah, I sent the one about the common driveway.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
He's the owner of the property. I'm sure that working with your council, we can work out any of the easements associated with this property, lot 6, to the common driveway. And you have Mr. Peck there, who's already submitted a letter dated October 18th. I submitted a draft. Your council said, we might ask for some changes. You can make it a condition of the permit if you so granted. That's typically how it works.
We talked about drainage and retention structures. These would need to be built and operable before, and the easements in place prior to the issuance of a building permit. We're all good with something like that?
I don't have a problem, Steve. It's very difficult. I mean, it's necessary for the project to work, right?
Yes, but I would defer to Aubrey as far as building that detention basin, though, prior to doing the balance of the development. I'm not sure about the phasing of that.
Yeah, and obviously we would need to have, we'd have to have a building permit to be able to put in all of these structures and things, so unless that is strictly for the drainage, then we would have to have that before we could install it. But yes, it would all have to be in working order and the easements in place before anything was opening and operating, of course.
Right, it's basically, we don't get an occupancy permit until we do everything that the board requires.
I'm just a little concerned about being in a position where suddenly the structure isn't built and we've got 2 buildings up. I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
Well, typically, doesn't that's typically controlled by the building commissioner, the building inspector.
Because we're going to need drainage.
I mean, you can make it a condition, how you see fit. You can't put the egg before the chicken kind of thing. So Aubrey and Steve and our engineers, this is, it's a coordinated process with the Board of Health, the building department. The language of the easements have to be recorded to make them work in the registry of deeds. Otherwise, they're ineffective. We would do all of those things working with. You have Mr. Peck right there. That's the intention. That's why I sent the draft to council. You have a letter from them. We will do as requested. What you can't do is you can't put us in chains, but you can say this, which is reasonably necessary in order to open the project and complete, right? Aubrey?
Yes.
Yeah, Steve? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Pat. Pat, during the construction process without retention, is there going to be an issue?
They would have to build the drainage system and the basin prior to doing any paving up there.
That's right.
Because most of obviously the pipe network is all under the asphalt, so that all has to be done, and you usually start at the basin and work your way up gradient from there. So the basin is usually the first thing that's constructed.
All right, and that will take place. That we can make a condition.
Yes.
But that's really what I was going for.
Construction, stormwater mitigation anyway, so during construction, like Patrick was saying, you're going to put the basin in first because you're going to want to capture any stormwater that's occurring just during construction itself.
Right.
So all stormwater things are going to be started and developed through the process. It's definitely not a building person than the drainage. That It's definitely not the order.
So it would be in conjunction with the development of the property. As the development starts, the basin would also start to be constructed?
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And obviously, we discussed the septic system. You'd have to have an approved septic system before you can start construction anyway.
The Board of Health, we can't do anything without.
Right, but you won't get a building permit without an approved septic plan.
Yeah.
And just to mention, we've already gone through and Conservation has in fact approved and signed off on your plan, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Does anybody see anything else that they would want to include for any conditions?
What about the parking spaces? You know, those 4 spots.
Like half a dozen.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the easements for the parking and the roadway.
That's part of it.
easements.
That's part of the easement with the road and everything, is the parking spaces on the other lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many do we have total now? 61?
61.
And the other, yes, yes.
And all that language would have to go before our council for review and, I hate to use the word acceptance, but.
Yesterday and today with them only.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody else have anything that they would?
What about our street being taken care of and the lights before any of this would happen?
Here, you want to talk about the timing of this?
You would typically have the design well in hand before you start construction, but until there's a use on that side, there's no point. You actually don't even want to implement any of the timing changes until this use is up and running. So we tend to time it out that the signal is operational a few weeks, a month ahead of the opening. If it's a new signal, where this one's an existing signal, it really can almost be day up because drivers are used to seeing a signal there. So you just have to be prepared before you get occupancy that signal is fully operational.
And the widening and changing of our lanes, that's all you?
Yeah, and that can be done, in advance because we're not really going to do anything that impacts the Walmart left turn lane. So we've talked about the length of that already. And we're not, just to be clear, we're not widening, we're just reallocating that blocked off, it's painted off median space and a little bit of the Walmart left turn lane. So that can be done as you get closer to occupancy, and part of that's a little weather dependent. So if they're looking to occupy in December, we might do that in October ahead of time, just so that you're catching the warmer weather. But it certainly can be done beforehand.
And when you mentioned getting the signaling in place prior to at the time of an opening, we're talking about any of the businesses, correct? I'm assuming they're not all going to open simultaneously. Storage, any auto parts store or Starbucks, they're not going to all open at the same time. So as soon as the first business is ready to open, that's when the lights would.
Yeah, none of it's long lead time equipment that you're putting in here, so we'll know well enough in advance to make sure that we have sufficient time to get that equipment in place and running before anything's in, and actually up and operational.
Unless someone else has anything to offer that we haven't heard already.
I have a question. Do we have confirmation from the Conservation Board that this is signed off?
Yeah,
for this actual property?
We got that a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was brought back up. It was brought back up and opened again, though, from my knowledge.
It was, we have letters here someplace. I remember seeing Conservation approved it. Do you have that handy, Rob?
I don't have it, but you can make it a condition of any permit that you want that we have conservation condition approval. I know Aubrey got it. I think it's about 5 months ago.
Yeah, I know I talked to the chair and she indicated
I
that
believe
they
it was in
approved.
September, I believe. Yeah, so you can make it a condition, Mr. Chairman, but we do have it.
I'm going to entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Anybody else have anything to say?
I have something to say, but not It's more to address the board than them.
We can do that after we close the
yeah.
hearing. Yeah.
Do you think that it might
Nope.
ignite anybody to say
Nope.
anything in it?
Not at all. It's been an impressive presentation so far. So
I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of closing the hearing on petition 991?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous? And by all means, Brendan?
So this isn't I have a few things to say, but they're to my fellow board members. First of all, to the people on the screen that have been a part of this project, I just want to commend you on a phenomenal presentation from beginning. I know it's been a long time coming, and I do appreciate, I think, Mr. Kraus, you've said it, you've met everything that has been asked of you to this point and your whole team. So now what I have to say is to the 5 people that represent the residents of Halifax. Although, to Mr. Milius's point, our job is to assess what comes before us, right, in the list of requirements. I believe also part of our job is to make sure that what goes into our town is in the best interest of the future and also of the character of our town, to the point of how the building looks and what buildings go in. I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks speaking with multiple residents, both on social media and also in person, to find out how residents felt about this project. One thing that stuck out to me is that Halifax just isn't it's a busy town, it's a growing town, but it's not a pass-through town. I wouldn't consider it to be. And what I mean by that is we're 10 to 15 minutes away from any major highway. So if you're traveling down 495, 44, Route 3, wherever you're going, you're not getting off an exit to stop for an auto part, but we already have that with O'Reilly's. Or you're not stopping off for a coffee right off the exit. You have to go 15, maybe even 20 minutes, depending on which highway you're on. So with Halifax being I guess the word would be quaint that I'm looking for, does another coffee shop, another major auto part retail business, when we already have two coffee retail shops and a auto part shop, does our town hold that kind of traffic that it would require 2 more of those types of businesses? And in my opinion, and after speaking with multiple residents, I don't think it does. And finally, I would just say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And so I'll end with my initial statement, which is, I think you knocked the cover off the presentation. I wouldn't change a thing. But my concern is that I don't believe it's in the best interest or in the wishes of our residents that just because you can, you should. So I would leave my fellow board members with that to think about before we cast our vote.
Anybody have any comments?
Well, I think that boils down to, bottom line, what is the duty and the purpose of the board? If it's, I know in other instances, it was to be within the terminology of being within the established character of the neighborhood. I don't know that that's exactly the planning board's duty. Maybe that, could be explained if what in front of us, if we have to approve or disapprove plans, set up foundations, the technical aspects of putting up a business or a building, which is what we've done in the past, as opposed to, I don't know, a personal feeling. If they do meet the requirements, or just because I like Dunkin' Donuts and I don't like Starbucks, or I like Starbucks and don't like Dunkin' Donuts, I don't know if that, being relatively new for the board, maybe it should be explained for my benefit.
And I want to be clear, I didn't mean it more to be a brand loyalty comment. I meant it more in a excessive amount of a specific industry that is being plugged into our town that has, although the traffic itself from the residents is heavy, from a retail perspective, you know, does it warrant another coffee shop, another, you know, to the point of this isn't Route 44 in Rainham with that kind of traffic where you're coming right off the highway and need multiple things on both sides of that highway, essentially. So to take the personal opinion out of it as far as whose coffee I like better, it's more of, do we need to add that to our town because of the amount of traffic other than just from our residents?
Okay, so Brendan, 2 buildings on that specific location, 314, would be in and of themselves okay, but what's being put into 314 in those 2 buildings is the question of whether or not the town needs it or not. But the building itself and what's presented in front of us with the setbacks and the physical aspects of the 2 buildings that are going there.
Yeah, based off of my conversations with residents and myself as a resident, after reflecting on the thought of these projects, I would agree with you that the knocking off the boxes or checking off the boxes, I think, which is also obviously the main part of our job, I would assume, or I as my understanding is. But I think just as much of, are you following our bylaws, our roles are also, are we approving what is going in there? And if that's in the best interest of our town.
Well, if you don't approve that, what's next?
No, I get it. And
we had a big giant warehouse that was going to go there, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just, we pretty much shot it down because it was just a bad spot for it.
Right.
It's just, it would have been
50 feet off the road, it would have looked like an IKEA.
It was a monster, it would have been awful.
Right.
You know, this is a little different.
It is.
I mean, this doesn't come, what's next? What are we going to try to do next, you know?
And I think, as you guys have said, that you've been residents of the town for going on 50 years, I hope to enjoy the next 50 years in this town. And so, as my spot on this board, and I'm only one of 5, I'm not sure that because those 2 things are better than a giant warehouse for storage, that means we need to concede to, well, it's not as bad as previous, in my own opinion. So that's all. And then if, you know, we don't have to settle for something that we don't truly agree with, just for the sake of it just happens to be what's on the table now. Because I do agree that I think something else will come along. I just think it may fit the character of the town a little better, in my opinion.
I'm going to kind of defer back to my original statements. Do I personally think we need another coffee shop? No. Do I think we need another potential auto parts store? No, I don't. But that's not, I don't see that as my decision as a board member. Our job is to see if the site works, if we can place this there appropriately. Does it, again, check all the boxes? As far as businesses go, whether they survive or fail, that's not our decision. I don't think that's our purview to decide what business goes in there. If you're just looking at 2 buildings, as was alluded to earlier, then everything works. If it comes down to we don't want another coffee shop, we don't want another auto parts store, I think that's the wrong approach for a planning board.
I think if it was another Walmart or a Target or something like that, that is I think we would feel differently. So that's just my, again.
Well, that's why we have difference of opinion.
Right, 100%. And respectfully, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this project is as good as any. Something's going to happen with the property. I don't think this is all that offensive. I know it strikes some chords with people. Why do we need another coffee shop? but everything's going to generate traffic. Everything. We could have 3 different businesses that generate the same amount of traffic. I mean, most of this is going to be weighted towards Starbucks, I assume. But again, I don't see that as our decision as to what business it is. I mean, as long as it's legal, as long as it's zoned appropriately, I personally would have a problem not approving it.
Can I ask one last question? And again, to the chairman. If you tell me that it is not it's not my job to vote for what I think is in the best interest of the residents as far as how they feel based off of personal conversations, and it's only based off of whether the people who did a fantastic job with the presentation checked all the boxes, then I will vote according to that. But if when I swore in, or as we all did, if part of swearing that in was to vote as a representative of the residents to protect the character and the future of the town, then I'm going to have to vote a different way. So if anybody can show me or tell me that my job is just to make sure they check the boxes, I will vote according to that.
Well, this gets down to, can you show me where it says that you have to vote from the other perspective?
Right.
And so we could argue this.
Sure, no, absolutely.
And at the end of the night, you vote your conscience.
Right.
And again, respectfully.
Yep, for sure.
That's always been my approach in my feelings all these years in town governments.
I also want to know my role, in other words, because if my role is not to worry about people's opinions and the character of the town, and it's just to make sure that they adhere to sewage and drainage and you know, all of that and traffic regulations, I will vote because they knock the cover off the ball. If there's another part in there where I need to protect the best interest of the character of the town.
Why do you have hearings? If you don't-
I'm sorry, I can't. We've closed the hearing, I'm sorry.
That's where my confusion is, I guess. So
my perception has always been that the personal nature should be eliminated from the decision.
Got it.
Does it work? Is it legal? Is it zoned properly? Does the site work? Did it meet, again, check all the boxes? I hate to keep going back to that expression, but I've always felt that those are the criteria. The hardest decisions are decisions you have to make, in my opinion, where you don't have a complete consensus of all your constituents. Those are the tough decisions. And, you know, I don't think I'm here to make easy decisions. I think the tough decisions, and, you know, you may incur some wrath from constituents. I'm talking about myself now, not you.
Yeah, no, I understand.
You know, so be it. I mean, I don't want people to hate me, but that's not how I see the job. I see the job as trying to, you know, do what's legal. Nowhere in that I've ever seen should personal feelings enter into it, other than you have an opportunity to persuade, cajole certain changes, as this board has done successfully many times. That's how I see it, but again, we all have different opinions. If we don't have any other comments, I suppose we should go to a vote. I spoke with council earlier. Probably the first vote would be to approve the site, but subsequently we would have to vote to approve a special permit for the drive-through. One of the reasons we needed to close this hearing tonight is because we are under some time constraint from the court, where the drive-through question was remanded back to the planning board, and so we need to make a decision. I think if we started with the site, I don't know that we need to vote on the special permit. I could stand to be corrected on that.
I would think that the special permit would need to be approved, since that would be the most important part of whether or not they wanted to go forward, because they have stated many times that if they don't get a special permit, they are not interested in moving forward.
But if they
And I
don't,
think that the special permit only is given if there are no other variances that are needed. So can we say in the site plan that there are no other variances needed? So far, we need parking, we have shared entrance, and so those types of things are definitely...
it's not a variance, it's an easement.
It's still a variant from the bylaw, from 16710L.
Well, again, we can
And that's what
disagree.
we're here for, is because we're here for these bylaws and keeping all personal things completely out.
We
So
can,
16710L is a clearly written law that states that you have to go across your own.
if you look at the bylaw, the zoning bylaws of the town of Halifax, as far as I've ever been able to find, talk about frontage in one place, which is under the definitions, where it says that access to your property must be attainable. And it is clearly attainable in this particular instance.
Across your own.
Across your own property. It is
Which
attainable.
is the part that you're leaving out.
No, but it's attainable across your own property. You're looking to add to it.
No, it's just,
That does
it's
not
already
preclude.
subdivided and purchased. So the way I look at it, this was subdivided. The use for storage was given a special permit to be in the commercial district. Okay? So there's one thing. Now, we're gonna use that same entrance where we gave them a special permit for an industrial use through the Zoning Board of Appeals. They did an A&R and created this by themselves, which means that they have created their own hardship. So now this is creating a road, basically, which is going to overload, and traffic is extremely important in our site plans and the flow of traffic. And I do not believe that our streets are wide enough to keep 102 apartments that were just approved for a new zoning overlay district. We have people almost getting run over left and right. We can't get down 106. This is common sense. Hold on, let me finish talking, Mr. Milius.
I didn't interrupt you
There
yet.
is so much traffic that we can't, and on a summer night or around school time, get by Sturdivant Cemetery. You wait in line to get up to 58 and 106. Down here, we're past the car wash. Let's add 102 units to this small town of Halifax, where we have given too many variances and built septic systems right on 106. Where are we going to widen the road to take on this traffic? And that, my friend, is what the planning board is supposed to do. Plan. We're supposed to make sure that we can think of these things, make sure this is going to happen. This is what our job is.
I absolutely agree with planning, and that's the one thing that unfortunately the planning board has not done for the last 25 years.
I thought you said that we did well a couple of minutes ago, that we've done well on something.
We've done well
Back
on
then.
getting things recently.
Yeah.
But for the last 25 years, the planning board didn't even, I don't want to get into this. The planning
I would
board,
100% agree with you, which is why I ran 4.5 years ago.
and nothing's happened since. We haven't changed the bylaws since. We haven't changed any
Changing
zoning
bylaws.
districts yet. since.
Changing bylaws, hold on, changing bylaws is not, so personally, we have somewhere in the amount of 3,000 units that have purchased property in our town based on what zoning bylaws stated to protect us. And it's also part of the value of our town. So changing zoning bylaws is not an antiquated thing. They are not out of date. It is what people purchased their property and said, I want to live in a town that has X.
Which you didn't
And
let me
when you have
finish.
special town meetings in December, right before Christmas, people can't make it. And then you allow people to truck in and you change things. And it's not fair to the people that live in the town. It's un-American, as a matter of fact. Neither here nor there. What we are talking about here are bylaws that need to be followed. Special permits for uses should not be granted within the commercial district, and then having this subdivision with the whole grandfathering, and granting an easement to go across and the whole 9 yards. you have to look at it. So most of this town right now is saying, can't get through the center of Halifax. And our job is to talk about that. So the whole thing about, we're not even gonna have the lights or anything until a week ahead of time. We don't have enough room. Has anybody consulted Walmart about losing some of their lane? Actually, is it part of their...
They don't own the lane.
No, but was it part of their site plan to get through? Has it been part of site plan to get through anything else?
So what you're proposing is that we do not develop any property on 106 because it's going to add traffic.
Absolutely did not say that. I
Well,
said,
that's what you're
if
inferring.
No, I am not inferring.
No, we're getting into a fight here, so let's just stop, because we're not going to get anywhere. And you cut me off, Ms. True, when I was about to say that we have not changed any zoning anywhere in town to accommodate anything else or anywhere else. We have not had a master plan. The last master plan was developed in the early 1990s and was only adopted when the state threatened to cut off funds to the town unless we adopted a master plan that was already 25 years old. My point was that when you talk about planning, that's the one thing that we have not been doing, is actually planning anything. Having said that, you and I are not going to agree on anything, so we should move on from here. And I apologize to everybody for getting into this combative situation.
It actually is our bylaws, so we're talking about the fact that we need to have all of these things have occurred. And when do you stop giving variances from what we actually have here? What we have here is what we're supposed to go by. And so far I have we'll add a couple of lanes sort of haphazardly and not worry about the fact that people are going right here and they already can't get right here, and then we're gonna add this little lane here and we're gonna back them up further, because that's the thing that we're not talking about full-heartedly. I can see that the land, where's, right here.
The street.
Okay, ready?
Where is the street?
Here we are.
Laning in the bylaw.
Proposed vehicular circulation, including pavement widths, location and dimensions of driveway entrances and exits, fire lanes, pedestrian ways, bicycle ways, and other transportation routes, parking areas, and signs. So that's all of it. Traffic, I can keep going. All rights of way and easements existing and proposed. Protection of adjoining premises against detrimental uses of the site during and after construction. The convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian traffic movement within the site and movement to and from the site, considering adjacent streets, property and improvements, and alternate routes between the site and nearby destinations. Provision for off-street loading and operation of vehicles incidental to the normal operation of the establishment. Adequacy of the site for any expansion allowed by applicable density standards. So all of that would start on the whole traffic. And that is part of 16728 site plan review.
Alrighty then. Does anyone have any other comments?
Well, then, basically, bottom line, my understanding would be, as it was previously made mention, that any addition, any business, any new construction going on 106 is going to somehow inhibit or affect the traffic flow on 106 and 58, and it's any business going in there is going to affect the traffic. Again, to your point, you know, we're not going to stay there's no way we can control that, okay? To bottom line, say, no, you can or can't. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like my only thing that I can draw from this is that we're deeming this particular property useless.
No.
Because well, the two buildings that are going up are going to increase traffic. It's going to affect traffic. And to your point, So no matter what we put in there, it's going to affect the character of Halifax. It's in the center of our town. Any business, period. So unless we're going to stop all construction and everywhere in town, like Mr. Milius had said, something's got to go up there. You know, the property's going to be used.
I agree, and I hope it is, but...
Right, and certainly we're all sitting here want the best for Halifax. You know, this is our town, and we have been, to their point, we have been very fortunate that we've been able to work with Walmart and vinyl siding and on the storage place, and people have been very accommodating and whatnot to try to keep it as best we can. But I think the days of Nezerel's farm stand on 58 and 106 where Walmart is now, it's going to be very difficult to bring those days back.
You know, the town's growing. There's no doubt. I remember years ago where I dug holes all over parts of town. If you found water within 10 feet, it was an unbuildable lot. You couldn't build on it because they didn't allow mounding. Then they adopted Title V, bang, open the floodgates. There's houses everywhere. I live in the railroad tracks. Once in a while, a freight train would go by, and the kids would run out and have them honk the horn, and they'd stop at the street. Now there's a commutative rail that runs through about 35 times a day, okay? The town's changing, it's growing. Once that commutative rail came, hey, it's not gonna be a quaint little town again, that's my opinion. And you're gonna get more traffic from everything. You know what I mean? I don't think this, you know, I don't think that's good. I mean, you know, I think that entrance, where the warehouse, where storage warehouse are going in, no matter what goes there, is going to make that and make an improvement there.
I think you're absolutely right that we can't, you know, we certainly don't want to deem that property unusable. And I do hope and I do agree that no matter what goes in there, it's going to affect traffic. So to that same point, if whatever goes in there is going to create traffic, do we need two businesses in there to which we already have two of one and one of the other within a snowball's throw? That's my question. That's my internal struggle right now. Just to...
Yeah, but that seems like the MO of what they do. You see an AutoZone and you see O'Reilly's right down the street. It's everywhere you go. I just drove back from New Hampshire the other day and I went through Nashua and boom, you know, Dunkin' Donuts, O'Reilly's, Auto. It's just, they go in waves, you know, that's how it goes. And like Starbucks, you know, they see something up and coming and they're going to come in and, you know, they're not going to come here and leave an abandoned store a few years from now, neither would AutoZone. So
I think also our original vote on this and what has brought us this far was the traffic. It was a matter of my personal vote. I stated I was concerned about public safety. You know, we looked at the example of Dunkin' Donuts and that's where my no vote came from. Since then, we have had, like you said, hit the presentation where they asked the courts to ask the board to review again, to take a look at it. Different items and details were provided and given to us to answer the questions that we had regarding public safety. Well, my questions regarding public safety. I don't want to speak for the whole board, but again, and
changed the plan and took out that.
And changed the plans and worked with Mr. Haywood and tried to do the best job possible to alleviate that problem and not deem the project or the property unusable or useless. Kind of tired of looking at that. 58 and 106 up there. How long has that been a mess up there with where the old Cumberland Farms is and all the water is and whatnot? The town's going to change. We're hoping for the best, and we're hoping for companies like this one and the previous one, the landscaper that worked with us, that was in the storage facility. Unbelievable. So I don't know. That's where I am at this point.
I'm torn between if my job is to vote because they checked all the boxes, or if my job is to vote because they checked all the boxes and because I've spoken to so many residents that have given their opinion to me about how and what they want in their town.
That's what I'm torn. Because it's literally two different votes for me. To open myself to be completely vulnerable, and I know this is on YouTube. So that's, yeah.
Well, these are the zoning bylaws that they aren't following, so is that checking all the boxes?
We've got potentially two votes happening here. The site plan vote, I believe the site plan vote can actually carry by majority vote, but the special permit vote would require a supermajority. That would be 4 votes of the 5 members present and voting. If we're ready to vote, if no one else is willing to make the motion, I'll make the motion, unless somebody else wants to make the motion. I think we need to get this done, one way or the other. This has been going on forever. We've really kind of kicked the can down the road a little bit.
Before we approve a site plan, why wouldn't we go to the special permit and see if it goes
Because
first?
if we don't approve the site plan, the special permit doesn't matter.
But the special permit doesn't matter if the
But
site
what if
plan-
we improve the site plan? You know, then we approve the special permit, unless you're saying we already have a
I'm just saying.
I
think that
Because you're not going to approve you're not
special
gonna approve
permit for use to see if it'll actually go, and then, because otherwise you just approved a site plan for something that they can do without a
I
drive-through.
even bounced this off council, and council also agreed that we should vote the site plan first and then the special permit. So either way, if the special permit doesn't get approved, they're not going to go through with the project. So
But then you're still allowing all the buildings and everything else to be there, like, without a, so
I don't see them doing it without a.
The easiest way to do this is to make a motion.
Yes, I'm gonna make the motion unless somebody else would like to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept petition number 991 regarding the site plan at 314 Plymouth Street, subject to the conditions that we previously had discussed during the meeting.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the site plan based on the conditions previously cited. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Troop?
No.
I'm going to put Brendan on the hot seat here. Myself, yes.
I'm going to vote no.
The motion passes by majority. Now we need a motion for the special permit for the drive-through. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for the special permit for the drive-through.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Again, a roll call vote. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Troop?
No.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Special permit passes. I think we're done with petition. I'm sure we'll be speaking again and getting confirmation of the language for the easements and all of that, so we can get them to town council.
I'll work with the council. I have already.
All right. Thank you all.
I think we have updates with the court by the end of the month. That's required.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We have another item on tonight's agenda, a discussion for 12 Sherwood Drive. I don't know if the owner is present. It does not appear so. This has to do with unfinished drainage easement and a discussion about the roadway. I had the opportunity to talk to Steve Hayward again today about this particular project. He believes that the drainage issue currently is under control, other than the fact that the requirements of the developer to maintain the easement, the retention pond, they have not been doing anything. It's overgrown, as are some of the other detention ponds on the whole development of Highland Circle. Problem is, all the developers are now gone. We do still have, and I confirmed with the town treasurer, $10,000 left on the original bond for Sherwood Drive extension. We've tried to get a hold of the builder. We have been unsuccessful to this point. We will continue to try, but we're going to ask the board their sentiments about reaching out to council and seeing what it would take to get that money released to provide any work on Sherwood Drive extension that is necessary.
I would move that we do so.
Would that amount of money cover the drainage issue? Or
Steve wasn't
a portion
sure.
of it, or
Steve wasn't
all of
sure.
it?
He wasn't sure it would cover the whole thing. The problem is that at some point the town's going to have to take over the maintenance of all of these things anyway. The roads haven't been accepted. The top coat is on, as far as I can tell, and Steve did say that the top coat looked to be in decent shape. Problem is, either the residents have to petition the town to accept the road, or the town has to petition town heating to accept the road. I don't know which is going to come first, if either of them will come first. But at least in the meantime, if we have some money available to do any work on Sherwood Drive extension, I think we should make it available to us to take care of.
Okay, I'm just not understanding then. If we haven't accepted the road, then what's our liability for
Who
doing
was the
work?
developer of Sherwood Extension?
Yeah, they're supposed,
you're right.
They're supposed to maintain it, but they're not, and apparently can't be reached. They've either gone out of
So there's no
business.
forfeit that $10,000 bond
Correct.
that we can put towards trying to.
So any work that needs to be done on
that
Sherwood Drive extension.
situation.
Yeah, you made it much clearer, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And Steve's not sure if the 10 grand will cover it all.
Right.
He isn't sure, but at least if he has the 10 grand.
Yeah, right.
It's
Right,
better
it's
than
10 grand we don't have to come up with.
Can I make a motion that, or is it a motion that needs to be made?
Yes.
Yeah, so can I make a motion that we use the $10,000 from the unused bond or a held bond to put towards addressing the drainage issue on Sherwood Drive?
Yeah, could you just add to that to have the attorneys give us direction?
After the attorneys tell us in which direction they think we need to move in properly.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? No, unanimous. And other than just some correspondence from the town of Pembroke regarding a ZBA decision, town of Bridgewater about a joint public hearing, town of East Bridgewater about a public hearing, town of East Bridgewater again about a public hearing, the town of East Bridgewater again about a public hearing. That is all we have to do for this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.